This past weekend, we bore witness to our first taste of this brand new Flesh and Blood set, Super Slam. And as I watched the stream games unfold during the calling this past weekend, I had one sentiment floating around in my mind, and it's that I believe that Super Slam has done something or will do something that puts itself in a little bit of a leg up situation compared to the previous set, High Seas. And you may be saying, whoa, that is not what I expected to hear from this guy, the pirate guy. But let me be honest with you. There's something that I think this set succeeds at that High Seas maybe dropped the ball on a little bit. To help you understand further, let's talk a little bit about the past year or two of sets. At the beginning of 2024, we got Heavy Hitters. It was a set with 6 different heroes, the largest hero set that we've ever gotten to this point, and 3 out of the 6 of those heroes were immediately meta viable. You had Kasai of the Golden Sand, you had of course the new KO, and then Victor Goldmane High and Mighty. Those 3 heroes had immediate impact in that metagame. The other 3 heroes, we don't really talk about those 3. After that, of course, we got Part the Mistveil, which, if you know anything about Part the Mistveil, all of those heroes were meta viable. Yes, we understand. It was a set that was a little too pushed, but all 3 of those heroes had a place in the metagame during that time. And then at the end of 2024, Rosetta came out and it gave us 4 heroes. Aurora, Florian, and Verdance were all meta viable, with Acilio living in that Dark Horse tier and eventually making his way higher and higher. Of course, then we move into 2025 with the Hunted, and if you look at the Hunted, it's a very similar thing to Rosetta. You had Syndra, who was immediately meta viable and doing quite well, Arachne Marionette, who was still pretty viable and it got better as it went, and of course Fang did the exact same thing, lived in that Dark Horse tier and has been just gaining ground in this metagame. And that takes us to the summer set, High Seas. And what did we see in High Seas? Well, with 3 heroes, technically only one of those was truly meta worthy, and of course that was Gravy Bones. The other 2 heroes probably need a little bit of help, and that's a sad thing. I think that is, to me, the one downfall of the High Seas set, is that Marlin and Puffin haven't really had that big time to shine in the metagame yet. Now, of course, LSS has time to improve them, has time to give them tools needed to make them better and more consistent and give them more identity. Of course, that also means that in order to do that, they would need to devote time and card slots to do so. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Would I like for that to happen? Of course, they're pirates. Why wouldn't I want them to be celebrated and heavily played in any way, shape, or form in the meta? But the fact stands that Gravy Bones was really the standout hero and deck from a meta perspective in that set. And it is the first that I can really think of where a set had a few less meta viable heroes than were actually meta viable in it, right? It's the only one that I've mentioned thus far that really had a smaller number of meta viable heroes than non-meta viable heroes. So understanding that downfall, even though I think the set is a perfectly themed set, I think it was like crafted to the T for a theming and for gameplay, and especially for limited, it does have to take a bit of a hit if you're looking at these heroes from a classic constructed or even a blitz standpoint, really any format standpoint. There's one hero that stands above the others, and the others struggle a little bit to really find a foothold. And that, of course, takes us to Super Slam, and I think LSS is going to return to what we saw in those previous sets, because as I watch these heroes be played, as I mess around with each of the heroes myself, I start to realize that these heroes have some really fundamentally powerful interactions and hero effects, strategies that they can employ. They have that fundamental power that allows them to, at the very least, compete with other decks in the format. I don't necessarily know if I think all 4 of these heroes will be top tier. I do think that several heroes are going to be pretty solid, and I think that overall the set itself is looking like it's going to provide tools for the heroes to compete in the classic constructed metagame. And I do think that these heroes by and large are going to find success more quickly and more often than a couple of those High Seas heroes. To be more specific, I very strongly believe that at least one, if not both, but I definitely think one of the two brutes are going to be quite good coming out of this set. And I'm looking at Tough Nut and going, that hero actually has a lot of legs and can be built in multiple different ways. That gives him the tools to actually stand out in a meta with a little bit less disruption, of course, because assassins take a tiny bit of a step back in this metagame. Now, I know what you'll say. There's going to be a lot of people in the comments that say, well, don't forget that this set supports the original KO as well. And yes, you are correct. That KO, it got a lot better with some of the cards in this set, and really is starting to, be heavily tested and played. And I do think that KO shouldn't be shunned at all because, of course, this set is going to feed him. But looking at the heroes in this set, I think it's going to be a triumph in that these heroes can be played directly out of the box, if you will, from this set, and can do relatively well based on the cards that they received. Now, the Guardians, I think it's going to be a bit more of a toss-up from this set. I believe in Pallades. I think Pallades is going to be strong, and I think they chose correctly in giving her the Armory deck this time around. I think it's smart, and I'm very much looking forward to getting my hands on that Armory deck, and I want to break down why I think this is a really strong Armory deck, but I could be wrong, so I'm looking forward to opening it myself and going through it with you. And Lyeth is the biggest question mark in my mind. This is a hero that has 5 intellect, and of course, having more cards in your hand is obviously a good thing. Look at all the bans over the past many years of the game. It's usually cards that get you other cards, right? And here's a hero that has 5 of them every turn, but of course, he takes a major hit from his hero effect. Nevertheless, if you're playing out these auras that push past that, and if you're playing small attacks already, then the halving of those attacks on those cards is really inconsequential in comparison to those big auras that could come down and make his attacks absolutely insane. So I'm cautiously optimistic that he is also going to be good, but I could see a world where those 5 cards don't end up being impactful enough somehow. I'm thinking he will be good though. Nevertheless, if 2 or 3 of these heroes are indeed meta viable and immediately hit the table and they're pretty decent, like B tier heroes, A tier heroes, I think that puts this set, at least from this perspective, ahead of High Seas this year, which again is a crazy statement to make coming from me because I'm sold out on Pirates. Are you kidding me? This is what we do here. Pirates are the way. But if you're looking from a purely objective standpoint at the classic constructed implications from each of these sets, if this has 2 or 3 meta-viable heroes, Super Slam is going to supersede, if you will, the High Seas heroes themselves. But am I way off base? Let me know down in a comment below. Did I miss something? And how do you feel about these new heroes? I'm curious to hear what you think as well. And I am going to be putting out some very simple deck lists that you can build in set so that they're relatively cheap as well. I'm going to try and make some just easy throw together decks that you can play, and I'll feature them on the channel so that anyone can go and put them together based on the cards in this Super Slam set. So if that's something you're interested in, of course, make the number go to the other number. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching.